Hello, everyone. It's International Pi Day. Welcome to the Dearborn, and I don't mean the eating kind, I mean the mathematical kind. It's 3:14. So happy Pi Day, happy spring. We're not quite in spring, although it really does feel great. So spring sports are starting. There's daffodils, there's robins,
there's
the
fog.
dog, yeah, there's fog. Dogs are taking out people, but it's a great time of year, and we're glad you're here. Welcome, everyone, to the Dearborn Board of Education. This is March 14th, 2016, and we're ready to start our meeting, everyone being present. So we have a couple of absences. Trustee Petchlikoff is going to act as secretary tonight. Please go ahead.
Thank you, President Lang. Call to order.
Yes.
Roll call. Miriam Bazey.
Here.
Joseph Guido, absent. Fadul Hammoud.
Here.
Roxanne McDonald.
Here.
Michael Mead, absent. Mary Petlicoff here. President Lane.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Mahmoud Abu Rus, principal of Miller Elementary, will introduce students who will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, President of the Board, board members. I have two superstars from Miller School that will lead us into the pledge. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Zainab Shaita.
Hello, my name is Hani Ayad.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well done, Zainab. We have a certificate for you. Thanks for coming here tonight, Zainab. Thank you very much. Great job. And Hanin. Thank you. Good luck with the rest of the school year. Trustee Petchikoff?
Superintendent's update. Agenda items.
So, good evening, everyone. Glad to have you here. Glad to be here with the Board of Education at our meeting. We do have several retirements today that I'd like to acknowledge. There's a bit of a list here. We want to thank all of them for their service and dedication to the district. We have Mary Baker with 20 years of service. Charles Boffman, 22 and a half years of service. Lori Feldkamp, 17 years of service. Marlene Fennick, over 29 years of service. We have Roger Fitzgerald, over 23 years of service. Philip Corenda, over 25 years of service. We have Marilyn Lindsay, over 11 years of service. We have Don Meitel, over 32 years of service. We have Edward Prentice with over 19 years of service. Lori Bundus, which she's on the supplement, over 27 years of service. Julie Maskin, over 16 years of service. And we have David Williams with over 13 years of service. So again, that's a lot of years in the district, helping the district move forward and helping our students from all areas of the faculty within our school district. So we're very grateful to them, and we wish them all the best in their retirement.
It's like 2 centuries.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like 200 years.
So I have another update for agenda items as well. We have on the agenda today for approval the River Oaks boundary changes, and I'd like to just go over some of the history of how this has come to be, and then go over the process we went through before we determined the boundary change recommendations, and then we'll actually display them. So the recommendation comes after a lot of thought, and so let me just give you some of the history that has occurred. So basically what happened was there was a 2003 bond in which came before the taxpayers $150 million within the school district. And at that time, there were several changes in both middle school and elementary throughout the district at the time. There was actually a task force set up for River Oaks, and there were different options looking at River Oaks because there was overcrowding in River Oaks. They didn't have enough space for the students. And so what ended up happening is that students that did go to River Oaks that reside north of Ford Road, now actually some of them go to Lindbergh and Hague, and they're bused currently. And that was after the changes the bond started in 2003, but the changes were really adopted after the 2005 school year. And what happened is the River Oaks was it took a little bit longer to solve, and so a task force was put together with some different recommendations, and there were some different options at the time. One of the options that was proposed was really just to expand on the current River Oaks school. But at the time, we were facing budgetary issues. At the time, it was Superintendent Artis, and he had recommended that, look, we could not sustain the money to put in for additional construction at River Oaks because it was not bonded. It would have came out of the general fund. So there was a promise to the community at the time that the district would return the students back to the River Oaks School. And we're actually displaying on the TV some of the boundary, both within there, the current, and then the upcoming. And I know the board has a packet with all the information. And so, because it wasn't possible at the time, this led several years down the road, and then we had the 2013 bond that was passed by the voters, which called for the addition onto River Oaks, which is, it ends up being 6 additional classrooms. They built 7, but 1 was lost in the transition of the hallway, and then there was an additional gymnasium. And so now we have the facilities through that bond to return the students to the River Oaks area, which was the intent of the board in the history as we went through the records. So what we did, and the bond in 2013, it was bond projects all over the city. I will say too, I credit the board and the taxpayers. I was in a different capacity at the time, but we continue to grow. And had we not passed these bonds, we would really have an issue with our students and places for them to go, and it just sustains our strength of our school district. So it really was a great move for the citizens because it protected the students, and it really keeps us in a healthy situation as we continue to grow, while other districts in Michigan, most of them continue to go the other way, and they're losing students. So what happened to get moving with the process? We held several meetings. I conducted the meetings and I had my administrative team. What we did is in the month of January, and really the discussion started far prior to that as to different options. But we went to Hague, we went to Lindbergh to get input from the parents. We also went to River Oaks and had an open house and allowed the parents to come and see the classrooms at the time. And so we continued to gather input from the parents, and it was some very good dialogues within the meetings. I think parents were passionate about their students, which we all would be passionate about our children. So we took all that information and we continued to look at recommendations. We have the 3 principals of the schools that are here tonight, Mr. Martin, Ms. Deneen, and Mr. Short, who have been at all the meetings, and they've been working together with these recommendations with our Director of Student Services and all our administration. So in the end, there were some different options that the citizens had talked about, and so what we did is we came up with what we think is a very fair proposal that is going to be voted on hopefully for approval tonight, and we're going to have that come on the TV screen, but I'm going to read it. And so what we're looking to do is to have the River Oaks boundary lines revert back to their original state prior to the changes that were made in 2005. This includes students living north of Ford Road, and we do have maps that we displayed on there already. We will allow, which we think this is very fair, we will allow for a grandfather provision where any student that currently attends Hague or Lindbergh as of the 2015-16 school year may choose to remain in the school. And one of the reasons why I think it's fair is it phases in, but it gives parents options. When I looked at the history, that wasn't necessarily always the case with this additional provision. Sometimes it was only the 4th and 5th graders, and then they'd have to go through boundary line exemption. So we do feel that this is a very fair option to give parents choice. One of the things we are going to do, though, is we're going to eliminate transportation for anyone that chooses the grandfather provision. So if they want transportation, then they would go to River Oaks. And so those are the 3 main items that are up for vote today, and we think it's a very fair proposal. It came with a lot of thought after dialoguing with parents, the administrators, and the community members within our meetings and the process that we went for. So I just wanted to let everyone know that this is what's on the agenda tonight, and this is the plan that we plan to move forward with. Yes.
I might like to add that I was on both the bond task force and the boundary task force, so I was present during all of these discussions and conversations, and River Oaks was one of the schools my group was tasked with studying during that time period. So I'm very familiar with the conversations that were had, and it was we always believed in the neighborhood school premise, and that students benefit from going to schools within their own neighborhood community. And so that's how we developed any of the it just took a little longer to get the additions and the monies for the additions, but we had always intended for that neighborhood to be made whole again and attend their neighborhood school.
I can also just comment, too, that we did receive a lot of professional communication from parents in the community. We're very grateful for that, and we did put the proposed plan on the school blogs. So that went out publicly, the plan that was going to come before you tonight. So thank you, trustee.
The boundary committee, in addition, had probably 50 people. It was a huge committee. It studied the entire district and looked at the entire district as a whole for where populations ebbed and flowed. And River Oaks had increased in population, gone down in population, increased again. So the building, one of their buildings was sold, in fact, to the college, in which we now have back in the district. So I know for myself, in looking at the boundaries, and I appreciate the principals if they want to say anything, I would like to keep for the board, I'd just like to have language on our boundary maps that this is a reality, and we have drafted up some language that will be put on the boundary site, or on the school attendance area page of the website, just reminding people that sometimes boundaries do change. Those of us that went through
Yes.
it know that it's not fun. And if, anybody that sat through it, there's just like nothing more emotional than where your child is going to school. People are really attached to their school. So it's not anything that we like to do, but, right now we have overcrowding issue at a couple of schools. So we don't want to take it on. We don't do it lightly, but people have to understand that sometimes that does happen. And at one time in this district, I'll remind everyone, we had
Portables.
54 portable classrooms. How we would deal with that today, I don't even know. So it's really a testament to the community that people saw the value of the bonds, and I'm really grateful for all of our students that we're able to have the beautiful facilities that we do. Yeah, Trustee
And I would like to add that as a parent whose children went through boundary changes several times in my East End neighborhood over the years, that with the support of the parents, the students always succeed, no matter where they go to school. And as long as the parents rally behind them, along with the staff at each of the buildings, it can be a very successful transition. It takes a little bit of adjustment, but the students always amaze us in their ability to come around and be comfortable wherever they call home.
Do any of the principals want to say anything? Okay, all right, good, okay, well.
Can I make a comment
Yeah, please.
to add on to
Yeah,
what both of
please,
you had said
please.
is, I think it's also, the future of the district when you're making these decisions and protecting the long-term stability, because as you get into overcrowding in buildings, then it impacts curriculum. And as you start moving and having too many students in a class, or you start losing art or music that go into what we call in a cart, you lose curriculum. And so this really is protecting the long-term interest
Of the entire district.
of the district. And the board, did a great job, I think, a couple of years ago with the building capacity study. And so that has really helped us to look at not only that, but projections as we continue to grow. So this is a move not only for current, but for the future of the district.
That's correct.
And we are in great shape, with our district, with our educational program. That's how Dearborn, the reputation of Dearborn schools, so we want to continue with that.
Anybody want to add anything else? Okay.
Non-agenda items?
So I do have a few, and I just got this email, and I feel like I have to announce a congratulations. He is in California, but we now have Dr. Dan Patterson, our Director of Assessment. He just passed his dissertation defense today at University of California in Berkeley. So he will be here to present to you at the next meeting, but I did allow him to miss today because obviously he had some important things to take care of. I also want to mention that in the spirit of transparency, because I know the college meeting isn't televised, but that we are looking to possibly bring a recommendation on the Director of Transportation to the college meeting if we're ready for next Monday. I know we did that last time when we had a Woodworth. I just want the public to know that we've been interviewing for that position with the retirement of Mr. Lynch. I also need to mention that I was kind of honored to, and I know the board trustees are aware of this, and I think it's good for our district. I was asked by the Deputy Superintendent of the state, Norma Jean Sass, to serve on the 10 and 10 committee for the state of Michigan. That's Mr. Whiston's big initiative as he looks to make Michigan a top 10 state within 10 years. And so this is a small committee of 7 that we're going to then have go into a larger committee, and so it gives us a little bit of input, and so I know the board has been supportive of my involvement in that, so I want to thank you and just let you know. A couple other things, and I know I have a little more at the beginning. Our continuous process improvement, we've been moving on that with Dr. Jensen, who's been providing training, so we have several areas that we are working on, and I know the board is aware. We have administrators that have been involved, so we've been partnering, and we're hoping to have those areas brought forward in May with some recommendations. And the reason I bring it up is because we do have the strategic plan coming up as well. And so with the strategic plan, our consultant is Dr. Wilmot from the Michigan Leadership Institute that the board approved as the consultant. And we actually meet with him tomorrow with a small little steering committee. And then the grander committee will be selected and meet into the month of April as we move through the process. But we are going to be looking for input from communities, from school stakeholders, community stakeholders, and we'll be selecting, committee members to serve. And I do know that we're also going to be, asking a couple of board trustees. That's what's recommended.
So why don't we bring that up right now, since you've brought
Sure,
that up?
yes.
I don't know if any board members are interested in serving on the strategic plan.
I think Mike and Joe are.
If you don't show up, you get volunteered, right?
Yeah. Remember, this is televised.
When are those meetings generally?
They're going to be, right now, there's 3, and it looks like right now it's April 5th, it's Tuesday night, and then April 12th. And then there will be a 3rd meeting that was initially planned for the 20th, but it may be rescheduled, so.
Are those all
Evening meetings, like
Yeah.
6 to 8:39.
I can look at my schedule. I might
Okay.
be able to do that.
Okay.
Might have to check.
If nobody else wants to, I will, but I'm already on so many different throughout the city and the district. If somebody else would like to
Well,
stand
we'll
in.
hold it open for
Yeah.
either of the gentlemen, and then if they decline, then I appreciate you
Okay.
offering Trustee Petchikoff. Thank you. Go ahead.
So and with that, I just want to also thank Dr. Jensen for his time that he's put in here, to help us with the CPI training as we move on the strategic plan, so,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. So that's it from the superintendent?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Okay, citizens' participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action who are signed in by 7:10 by submitting a blue card to the secretary may speak at this time. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. The board president reserves the right to limit times. I have one blue card from Renee Ziaja from Dearborn. She would like to speak to the board about the Dearborn Federation of School Employees.
Thank you. I'm Renee Zasia. I'm the president of the Dearborn Federation of School Employees, Local 4750. And I came here tonight just to say hello to the board, but also to share with you, we have several of our members that are here tonight. Our members represent the support staff for the schools, bus drivers, kitchen managers, our paraprofessionals, school office secretaries, carpenters, custodians, a wide range of support staff. But we have several members here today in our blue DFSC t-shirts. And if they'd like to stand, I was going to ask them to turn around because we're proudly celebrating 50 years as a union here in Dearborn. So I just wanted to say hello and say thank you very much to Dr. Maliko, to Mrs. Alibazi, and to Ruth Bankhead for all the support they've given the union. We have a very positive relationship, and we appreciate it very, very much. So thank you.
I appreciate having you here tonight. This is an open meeting, and I think I can speak from the rest of the board. We try to be very careful about open and closed meetings. We try to be very transparent. I appreciate having your membership here. I think governance works best when people are active and involved in their government. So I appreciate the people that came here. I would welcome you at any time. I feel it keeps us on our toes all the time. So, Trustee McDonald.
I just want to add that we really appreciate the DFSC because so many of your members are actually live in our community. And so they value the students and they have a stake in how they learn, and you're our neighbors. And you spend your money that you earn in our community. So we just, really value the relationship and we appreciate the extra that you give because those are things that aren't easily measured. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's important.
Thank you. Our members truly love the children that they work with and the students. They have a tremendous commitment to them.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I know we also have DFT members almost always here, and probably ADSA also. So, yeah, we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
if I could just say too that, I appreciate them as well as the other unions. They're willing to sit down and have conversations. Sometimes we disagree, but it's healthy and it's respectful and we're willing to work together. So thank you as well for working with our team and, trying to resolve issues and to enhance the district for the benefit of our students.
And that's always the number one goal, and we see it.
And now I know how to pronounce her last name.
But she gets that a lot. Go ahead.
Okay, approval of minutes. Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meeting. Regular P12 meeting, February 8th, 2016. Recommended action, make any necessary corrections and move approval of these minutes.
So moved. Second.
Did anyone notice anything that needs to be corrected or added or changed or subtracted or otherwise altered? Anybody notice? I looked at them. I didn't see any problems with them. Can I accept those unanimously?
Yes.
You may.
Okay, great. Next.
Recognition and acknowledgements. Commendations. Zoe Plonka from Edsel Ford High School.
From the district, we have commendations to Joanne Harris, who received the 2016 Outstanding Human Resources Support Personnel Award from the MASPA, Michigan Association of School Personnel Administrators. She was nominated for the statewide recognition by Dearborn Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Glenn Maleko, Executive Director of Human Resources Maysam Ali Bazzi, and Instructional Director Rob Cederlin. Fordson High School. Congratulations to Fordson's Men's Ensemble and Jamila Ensemble vocal groups for their participation in the Michigan School Vocal Music Association District 12 Solo and Ensemble Festival at Eastern Michigan University. Under the direction of Matt Lara, the Men's Ensemble received an excellent rating and the Jamila Ensemble received a superior rating. Dearborn High School. Congratulations to the Dearborn High vocal music students who, under the direction of vocal music instructor Carmel Atkins, attended the District 12 Solo and Ensemble Festival. The students who received good ratings were Amanda Alaziz and Abi Balaka. Receiving good state ratings were Kayla Katona and Marjorie Gabber. Excellent ratings were awarded to Amanda Shatila and the DHS Quartet, which included Jacob Depper, Braxton Simpson, Nick Karos, and Max Margetich. Excellent with superior distinctions awards were presented to Maria Viscomi, John Van de Veert, Katie Joshim, and Maddie Kaplan. The 8 students who received a good state, excellent, and excellent with superior rating will attend the state solo ensemble in March. Congratulations to the 21 Dearborn High School musicians who, under the direction of instructor Jeffrey Oshnak, qualified for state festival by earning a first division rating at the district festival. Commendations to the Dearborn High Anti-Bullying Club for hosting 2 new student breakfasts this year, where they welcomed 110 new students to the school. The breakfasts give new students an opportunity to meet student leaders and make positive connections in their school community. Edsel Ford High School. Commendations, congratulations, the Edsel Ford High School singers who competed at District Solo and Ensemble in February. Earning excellent ratings were senior Keegan Vaughn and junior Ladaria Avery. Good ratings were awarded to seniors Cassie O'Brien and Selena Guajardo, and sophomore Reagan Rankin. Keegan, Cassie, and Ladaria will continue on to state competition. Many thanks also to Miss Sarah Jakubiak for accompanying our performers. We also congratulate Ladaria Avery on the honor of being invited to participate in the highly esteemed MSVMA State Honors Choir at the Michigan Music Conference in January. Lindbergh Elementary. Commendations to Lindbergh students, families, and teachers on raising over $8,100 for the American Heart Association through the Jump Rope for Heart program. Second grader Thomas Watts collected more than $1,000 towards the cure for heart disease, making him the school's top fundraiser. Nearly 190 students participated during this month-long event coordinated by physical education teacher Mr. Emmanuel Murat. Nowlin Elementary. Commendations to all the students at Nowlin Elementary who helped raise $1,505 this year during their Jump Rope for Heart campaign. Due to their outstanding efforts, this was $800 more than they raised last year fundraising for the American Heart Association. River Oaks Elementary. Commendation to River Oaks students and staff members who, in February, raised over $1,000 for Heifer International. Heifer International is a foundation that donates animals to communities suffering from poverty all over the world. Salina Elementary. Congratulations to the 120 students who participated in Salina Intermediate's annual science fair in February. Since December, the record-breaking number of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students had been preparing to present their science fair projects to parents, staff, and community members. The top 3 winners were Fayaz Obad and Omar Al-Madani in 3rd place with their project titled How Can We Reduce Pollution? In 2nd place, Zashan Arshad with the relationships between electrolytes and types of drinks. Ahmed Al-Shamamam and Muad Al-Jahami won 1st place for their project, What Effect Does Caffeine and Sugar Have on the Body? Commendations to the Salina Elementary Tech team on being selected to participate in the Global App Development collaboration titled Mad About Mattering. Salina has the youngest students participating in this compassion-driven innovation program. They will work with 7 other schools to develop apps that solve heartbreaking social problems through collaborative engineering to make the world a better place. Commendations to Salina students who donated $206 to help provide fresh water to Flint residents affected by the water crisis. Whitmore Bowles Elementary. Commendations to the students at Whitmore Bowles Elementary who raised $6,756 during the Jump Rope for Heart campaign. This total is the highest donation to the American Heart Association in Whitmore's history and is nearly 9 times as much as the school donated last year. Ms. Coleman's 3rd grade class raised the most money with a total of $1,201. 2nd grade student Evan Brown collected $584, the highest single student total, which contributed to his class's 2nd place total of $1,131. Thank you, Whitmore Heroes, for this incredible donation to help children who suffer from heart disease. O.L. Smith Middle School. Commendations to the students and staff at O.L. Smith Middle School for donating $442 to the Flint Health and Development Fund, which is coordinating efforts to provide clean water to Flint residents. The students at Smith raised funds by making a donation for the opportunity to wear a hat to school, while staff members contributed in order to enjoy a day of wearing jeans to work. Lastly, Woodworth Middle School. Commendations to the 108 students at Woodworth Middle School who participated in the Students' Hoops for Hearts Day in February. The Woodworth Heart Heroes raised more than $300 for the American Heart Association.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Ms. Planka. That's the best part of the meeting, isn't it? I mean, I shouldn't say that because I know we have the robotics team coming up, so that's going to be great too. But this is, it's really inspiring and it's deeply appreciated. So thank you for the commendation reading as well.
Acknowledgement of donations.
Okay, as usual, we have a list here for me to read. Donation of $750 has been offered to Salina Intermediate School by Mr. Alexander Shashko and friends to be used for instruments for 5th grade band and string students. A donation of beverages have been offered to the Real Dearborn March by Dr. Waleed Harb. The march was held on January 18, 2016. A donation of $500 each to the following schools, which totals $3,500. Maples, Miller, Gear Park, Laurie, Fordson, McDonald, and Oakman schools by Bilal Saad and Kader Al-Qadre from Michigan Fuels, which is part of an educational alliance program with ExxonMobil, funds to be used towards a school program. A donation of $1,300 has been offered to Salina Intermediate School by concerned residents for South Dearborn CRSD to be used towards field trip transportation costs. A donation of $1,000 has been offered to Lindbergh Elementary School by MN Service LLC to be used towards the Leader in Me program. A donation of automobile fluids has been offered to Edsel Ford High School by Westbourne Chrysler Jeep to be used for the auto shop service lab activities. A donation of 28 safety glasses and 26 child workshop aprons has been offered to Becker Elementary by Canton Home Depot to be used for construction role play to construct words with blocks and PVC pipes. thank you.
That's all cool, too.
Yes, and thank you to those who donated.
Go ahead.
Any other?
None.
Okay.
All right, moving right along. Special reports. Robotics presentation. Dr. Glenn Maleko, Dr. Choco, and Ms. Rima Yunus.
Now we're going to have some fun.
And this is Mr. Farhat, the interim principal at McCullough Eunice, coming up right now.
Well, good evening, board members, President Lane, and Superintendent Dr. Malenko.
Did
We're
I
all
get it
excited to
wrong?
be.
You're from, I thought we had Becker coming. Did I say Becker?
We're from McCullough Eunice.
I know you are, I see that. And I think I said Becker. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you for having us here today. We're very excited about being here and having the opportunity to present to you our robotics team, the first middle school's robotics team in Dearborn schools. Last year, thanks to Hiam Al-Qadri and Coach Simmons over here, they worked hard on getting a 7th grade team put together. Basically, they met periodically throughout the school year and put together this lovely robot over here. They also competed in a regional competition in Howell, Michigan, where not only did they represent McCullough Eunice, but also our district very fabulously. There they were recognized for their teamwork and for their engineering skills. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Coach Simmons here. She's the one that's been working with them and with the students, so they can share with you, this whole journey that they had. They're all excited about it and some of the accomplishments that they were a part of.
Thank you, Mr. Farhat, for such a warm welcome. Good evening, Dr. Maleko, President Lane, and trustees. It's truly an honor to be here today. My name is Kadada Simmons, and I have the pleasure of being the McCullough Eunice Robotics Team Coach for the McUbots. My husband, Thomas Simmons, and volunteer Jim Mitz are also coaches of the team. As you may already know, we have the honor of saying that the McUbots are the first middle school robotics team in Dearborn. Before we acknowledge the 9 awesome 7th graders that pioneered middle school robotics in Dearborn, I need to thank our supporters. It all started with Mrs. Al-Qadri. Without your support, we wouldn't be here today, so thank you. I'd also like to thank School Life, Trustee Hamoud, and Trustee Bazzi for sharing our story. Thank you. I want to thank each parent of the McUbots students for allowing their child to stay after school and driving them to Howell, Michigan for our first competition. I'd also like to thank the McCullough Eunice PTA for helping us with our bake sales for fundraising. Our other supporters included help from our sponsors that helped us financially through grants. They gave us $3,700 in grant money to help us with this journey. These generous organizations included the Dearborn Education Foundation, First Technical Challenge, Ford Motor Company, General Motors, Consumers Energy, and the state of Michigan. Now that I've covered all the formalities, let's meet this exceptional team of robotics pioneers.
Hello, my name is Aiden Newman. I am a part of the McUnice robotics team.
Hello, my name is Layla Farhat, and I'm also part of the team.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Al Yasri, and I'm also part of the McUbots team, and we had 6 weeks to build the robot. It all started from having the grant money to provide our parts for the robot, and then we started dividing into small teams to finish building the robot. We first had a Java programming team where we programmed the robot, and then we had a construction team where we also build the robot. We had a field management team where we build a field for the robot to go play, mostly move his arms and wheels so we can test the robot. And then after that we had a wiring team where we wired the robot. Oh, all in all, we had 6 weeks to build the robot. Then we went to the competition. But we all did it as a team together, so that's the most important thing.
Hello, my name is Miriam Masek, and I'm also part of the robotics team. Our competition was in Howell, Michigan, and there were 24 teams in total. We placed in 21st place for being a rookie team, and we won the Hardest Fighter Award right here. The competition name is First Technical Challenge. All the teams were really helpful to us because we needed some help. For the competition/game, we had to push debris into our side of the arena. Then for extra points, we had to control our robot to climb a ramp. Even though we couldn't do it, we still learned new things along the way. When I said that the teams were helpful, I really meant it because even if the team was against us, they'd still helped us. Our challenge for next year is to prepare our robot for its new game.
My name is Fizia Lashkar, and I was a part of the robotics team too. The reason I decided to join the team was because I used to watch people on TV compete in these competitions. I thought that they were so cool and that they had an awesome opportunity. Then a few years later, Miss Simmons, our science teacher, told us that she was having a robotics team. I got so happy and I quickly joined. Now I was the lucky one, and I had the one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This was such a fun year, and I hope to join again next year. This team will help me prepare for my future goal, and it is being an interior designer. It will help me with science and math.
My name is Ahlam Saeed in the robotics team. It took a lot of hard work to prepare for the competition. We had a hard-working team, and it took a lot of time. Then we thought. Ms. Simmons showed us a website that helped us step-by-step directions to assembling the robot. The way we divided the work was some team members did wiring and programming, and some team members assembled the robot. If you are on the robotics team, you have to work hard and work together. If for the next season we are going to improve our team, since we already had experience from before, we are going to assemble and program the robot right away. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Latifa Awada from the McHugh Robotics team, and feel free to ask us any questions about what you need to know.
Those good questions. Trustee Hammoud.
Well, I just wanted to say that I've been anxiously waiting to meet this team. I first met Coach Simmons over at McCullough Eunice, and I remember speaking to both President Lane, Trustee Bazzi, and Dr. Maleko, and she was just gloating, talking about your work and your hard work, and this truly is something to be proud of, and I'm so happy that you are here today presenting. So I applaud you for your hard work, and congratulations on being the best fighter, because that's what matters. It's how much work you put into something, it's how much heart you put into something, and we are extremely, extremely proud. Now, I do have a question, if you'd like to answer it for me. What was the hardest part about putting it together, would you say?
Well, there was many hard things about it, but one of the hard things was we were starting on a robot, and we had our website, and then come back the next week and we lost the website, so we had to restart on building the robot and find a new one. So that's why it pushed us back a little bit.
But you fought through it.
Yeah. And then when we were building the robot, we had problems finding the specific screws, so
Yeah.
we had help organizing them in different groups so we could find them right away.
All right.
Trustee Petchka.
I'd like to know, there's 9 of you now. How many do you think are going to be involved next year? And how did you go about getting interested students to want to participate in this?
Well, you're correct. There are 9 on the team now. The students told me they were interested in robotics, and my goal this year was to make sure I listened to the students and what they were interested in and bring the things to the classroom and try to make their dreams a reality, and I was able to do that. So we looked at the students' NWEA scores for math and science. We talked to the staff and see which students were the best of the best, and you see them standing behind me today. So they follow the district's core values. They're leaders in the school, and they were exceptionally well. They did exceptionally well on the math and the science. NWEA, and so they had very high recommendations. The students put in an application, and of course they had to meet the deadline. You know how that is. You have to turn it in on time, and then we kind of compared their scores and talked about which students would fit best and represent us, because we knew we would be leaving the community. So for Howell, Michigan, a lot of us, other than going to Camp Dearborn, we hadn't been in that area for a while, and we wanted to make sure that they represented us to the best of their ability, and they did an awesome job.
Great.
Okay.
So does this thing actually drive?
Yes, someone's going to move it for us.
Okay, can you show us what it does? Wheelies and all kinds of stuff? Do you know how many parts are in there?
About 100.
About 100. By the way, you know how many are in a car? My husband does. Wow. There's like 14,000 in a car, and every one has to fit in with the other one, and I'm sure you guys learned that with engineering this. This is just fantastic.
They have it attached to a phone, if you can see that. I know Joe would have really appreciated that.
Should we call him?
The reason that the car isn't driving is because every year FTC deletes our programming and we have to start again next year.
Okay. I was wondering about that. Thank you.
Well, I just think it's terrific that you're all doing this, because in the United States, we have a shortage of engineers. And I hope all of you guys will be getting a copy of this TV show so that when you apply to your engineering schools or science or wherever you're going to study, you'll be showing them this video. I mean, this is exactly what we need, people that know how to build things, that know how to work hard. You guys did a great job.
Yes.
It doesn't matter to me if it runs or not. The point is, you all work together. And Henry Ford just had an engineering night. I know you're having family night. It's just phenomenal. I'm just so happy, especially with science, math, engineering. It's really terrific to make it fun and have students learn.
Yeah, and
Trustee
teachers
McDonough.
that encourage them. So
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Coach and Principal.
I just wanted to say, robotics, just like life, a lot of times you learn when you make mistakes more than you do when you're successful. So making mistakes is a good thing. That helps you learn what not to do, and also gives you thoughts of what to do better next time. But I just also wanted to say I'm really pleased to see all the ladies up there looking for careers in engineering and science. Nothing against you guys, but we need more women in that field. If anybody wants to tell me, do you all plan on joining the team next year? Are you all? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Terrific. Well done.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. It's really great. They want to take that back to McCullough Eunice with them for sure. Yeah, show that off. Yes, you're right. No wonder we're confused. Yeah, I didn't notice that either. We have the wrong name on the presentation. Okay, so I was confused and.
I just read what's down there.
Right, exactly. So go ahead with the next.
Instructional evaluations, our second special reports. Dr. Glenn Maleko, Ms. Mason Ali Bazzi, and Mr. Robert Cederland.
Students from the folks from McCullough, please feel free to leave whenever you need to leave. I know you guys want to get home. You have school, so we won't take offense. You're welcome to stay, but thank you for coming. It's terrific.
No more.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
I would need to be logged in, right? Oh, shoot. I didn't even think of that. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start without the PowerPoint for now. Good evening. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Chris Sipperly, the president of the DFT. and also Mr. Rob Cederlin. He is the Director of Human Resources, and I'm Mason Ali Bazzi, the Executive Director of Staff and Student Services. We have a tough act to follow. I didn't know we were going to be going after 7th graders. Nothing tops that, especially us 3 old folks. I'll take it. I'm almost 40. All right. So I'd like to present on we're going to be presenting on teacher evaluation this evening. And once we get our PowerPoint going, you'll see a list of our evaluation committee members. I'm really excited to share that it's continuously growing. We are up to 24 members on our evaluation committee, and those are members from all 3 unions, and also the HR department as well. Oh boy. We could do it.
As Mason mentioned, we have numerous teachers and administrators and central office on the committee. We always consider our teacher evaluation system a work in progress because things are always changing, and we are always trying to make it a better and more reliable tool. I do want to share that this past weekend I was in Washington, D.C. for a teaching and learning convention, and there was a workshop on teacher evaluations, which I went to. And the panel did say that the key to a successful evaluation system is collaboration and educating everyone on the tool itself so that you have a full understanding of what the tool is supposed to do. It's supposed to drive instruction, and it is supposed to provide support for teachers in order for them to be able to just get better and better at their craft. So that is exactly the goals that we have had so far and continue to have.
Okay, so that is the first slide you'll see says collaboration is the heart of the decision-making and implementation process. And as I mentioned earlier when we were speaking, our unions prior to me joining the HR team, Dr. Maleko, Mr. Whiston, Mr. Cederlin, and Ms. Bankhead made a deliberate effort to make sure that we have good rapport and relationships with all the unions, and it's essential with it. Since we're talking about teacher evaluation, I'm going to focus on the DFT and our relationship. We continually challenge each other, but it's all positive, and the kids benefit from when we're challenging each other. Teacher evaluation program and the Danielson framework. So in front of you, you have the rubric. It's made up of 4 domains. It's also 27 components, and then there's critical attributes that go with the components. This is one of the 4 models that we are, by the state of Michigan says that we are to choose from. Dr. Maleko and Mr. Rob Cederlin had begun the rolling out process last year, but this is our first year of implementation. If you take a look throughout the rubric, it's quite in depth, and we've had the pleasure of learning the rubric with the teachers, with the administrators. We're all learning it together this year. There's been ongoing teacher professional development within school buildings, and then also administrators have been heavily in service and continue to attend professional development sessions to learn more about the rubric. And as Chris said earlier, it's really intended for teacher growth and reflection, and it fosters the growth, the reflection, and learning about instruction. Senate Bill number 103, teacher evaluation, passed in October 2015, and Chris already touched on this as well, is that when you go to all these different evaluation seminars, teacher evaluations, the laws are constantly changing, and so there's a lot of different changes that have happened as far as the number of evaluations per year, whether they're scheduled or unscheduled and things like that. And so when you go to these trainings, you start to realize how far ahead of the game that Dearborn really is. And I was blessed to inherit a department from Dr. Maleko that was already far ahead of the game. So the law states that MDE will develop a list of evaluation systems, and that's what I just touched on, that Dearborn is currently implementing the Danielson framework for effective teaching, and we are using Teachscape. Teachscape is the online tool. So Danielson is the framework for teaching the rubric. That's the heart of Danielson. But Teachscape is the online portal that we use. And this is our first year doing evaluations all online. It's paperless, and you can flip the next one, yep. There's a bunch of, the benefits includes that it records teacher observations and evaluations. It's aligned with the Danielson framework for teaching, which was a big part of the reason why the district chose to go with TeachScape, because they already had the rights to Danielson. Because not just any online resource is allowed to use the Danielson framework. We have the ability to access district reports about teacher performance. So if there's an area, a component in there that we constantly see throughout the district that is ranked lower than the others, then that would guide our professional development within the district. Paperless, and it's time efficient. Now you'll notice I put now Frontline. So Frontline just purchased TeachScape. So next year we'll be referencing it as Frontline. And it may look a little different, but it'll do the same things, and it'll, I'm hoping, operate even more efficiently than it currently is. We started off the year a rough start, but I'll tell you that the teachers really rose to the occasion, and they were extremely patient with us as we were rolling it out. Some things were out of our control, but they continued to push through, and now we are at this point, and the administrators as well. The 4 domains are classroom environment, preparation and planning, instruction, professional responsibilities, and then the ranking is according to the state law, which is highly effective, effective, minimally effective, or ineffective. The teacher evaluation program has 3 plans. Plan 1 is probationary teachers, years 1 to 5. Plan 2, tenured teachers, and then Plan 3 would be Plan 2 teachers with performance concerns. That plan has 3 different phases. It's really intended to develop the teacher in the areas of concern and hopefully get them back to Plan 2.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the roller coaster ride of the state legislation. A few years back, when this mandate first came out, they mandated that 25% of the evaluation tool must be based on student growth, with the expectation that that would move to 50% in the year 2015-16. So we began this year moving from 25% based on student growth to 50% on student growth. And all the time, the state's telling us, well, we may change it, we may not. And as Ms. Alibazzi pointed out, this passed in October. We were doing training in August and September with our teachers and administrators, telling them these are the rules, this is the state law, it's going to be 50% of the evaluation tool has to be based on student growth. So it created a lot of anxiety, and we were hearing from experts that 50% student growth is way too much. It's too high stakes. So fortunately, the state legislature dropped it down to 25%, and as you see on the screen, we've made that 25% up into elements within the building. So there's actually a district-wide element that makes up 5% of student growth that is assessed by all teachers district-wide. Another 10% that's based on your building growth or your student growth in your building, and then 10% based on student growth of the individual classroom. So and that formula will stay in place for another 2 years, and then in the year 18-19 it changes to 40%. Of the evaluation must be based on student growth, of which half has to be based on a state evaluation tool. So, and that state evaluation tool is not in place just yet. So we're struggling with student growth. We've been doing student growth rules or student growth measurements for the last few years, and we've really relied on the building administrators and teachers to have that open communication as to what are the goals you're setting for your classroom, what are your current data show, and what do you want that data to show at the end of the year. And that is the true student growth measures, is the growth of the student. It shouldn't be based on proficiency, and a lot of people confuse proficiency with growth. And we've struggled to make sure that our administrators are clear and our teachers are clear that we're going to measure student growth, and the students that we get, we take them from where they're at to a higher level, and student growth is key. And again, it will be a higher stakes measurement as years go on, as we move from 25 up to 40.
I just want to add one thing about the professional development. While the teachers are learning the rubric, administrators have attended 2 full days of professional development this year, in addition to smaller 2-hour, 3-hour sessions. One of them used the text called Learning Focused Conversations, which is written by the Danielson Group. and that's about how to have the most effective conversations about an observation with staff. The second textbook that we used just recently, this last week actually, is called Talk About Teaching. And again, that's about conversations about teaching with staff. This text takes the approach of a more informal conversation about teaching and learning, and not so much necessarily based on a formal observation. Also, throughout the school year, administrators are exposed to professional development that includes calibration. Calibration means if all three of us were to observe one teacher teaching, we script the lesson, and then we rank using the rubric, and then we compare our rankings. And then we debate it. And so the administrators get into four corners, and they debate why they gave the ranking they did. So it's sharpening our ability to observe effectively and provide effective feedback. And even the Teachscape tool comes with 10 to 15 hours of training for every administrator. So every administrator is required to go through the training prior to their evaluation, their observations, their evaluations, and then there's a test that they have to pass. And the test is no joke. It's quite challenging. So every one of our administrators, we have 3 administrators that are currently going through the program. And that's just something within our district, the standard that we've set for our administrators. Finally, I just want to announce what's coming soon is that we have 2 committees. We have the Evaluation Committee, and then we also have the Administrator Evaluation Committee. So these are the members that are on the Evaluation Committee, Administrator Evaluation Committee. We're currently looking at a new administrator framework for the administrator evaluation, So we're going to be working on that, and our goal is to implement next year, as the state says we are to implement next year. We're trying to determine which model the state is going to lean towards, so we don't plan on implementing one thing and then we get a different direction. So we're currently working on that. Any questions?
More comment. I really do appreciate the way the administration and the union works together, and it really has impressed me so much as a board member, all of your efforts and what you guys do, and I absolutely love this. I'm one of those people that likes to look at bullet points. What are you expecting of me? Because I want to know ahead of time so that I'm not learning why I'm getting ranked poorly later when it wasn't explained to me up front. So I really appreciate this. I'm sure the teachers appreciate it, and thank you for your efforts.
Well, once again, this comes back to, this is an extremely time-consuming process, and I'm happy that you've jumped on top of it prior to our being forced into a position, so to speak. But for those schools, those buildings that have a large number of staff, I just think this must be a daunting prospect to get through a school year, not impact your other job roles that you need to do throughout the school year, and still be able to do a thorough job of evaluating each teacher. How are we expecting our administrators to do this?
You're absolutely right. It's a lot of work. And I will point out that the legislation that did pass, they gave some relief to administrators, and that if a teacher is rated highly effective for 2 years in a row? 3 years in a row, then they could actually take a year off on an evaluation. Our committee decided that they'll still be evaluated, and they will still be evaluated annually. It just is less intense, that they don't have to do 2 observations. They can actually do walkthroughs. So they did create some relief for teachers that are ranked highly effective, that administrators have been observing them. They know they're good teachers, and that way they can focus on those teachers who need a little bit more assistance, so that they can give them that focus and drive to improve, so that we can improve our teachers, because that's really what this is about, is bringing everybody up. And if they can spend less time focusing on those teachers who got it and they're demonstrating highly effective, then we'll work on those that are effective and have some elements that they're not effective or highly effective on.
And we're still building in the support system for administrators that maybe fall behind for one reason or another, so that we can help support them, not just necessarily penalize them.
Yes, absolutely. I just recently ran a report using Teachscape to see the progress of all the buildings, and then was able to make contact with the majority of administrators. It's still a work in progress. I'm still doing that right now. And if there's an offer assistance, like, hey, this is what I noticed, and did you need some help? And, you know, I'm in buildings quite a bit doing walkthroughs and formal observations as well. And Rob can also do if it's brought to our attention that assistance is needed, we will be there.
Okay.
Yeah. I also want to say that Rob spoke to the 3 years of highly effective. So if you're a teacher that's earned highly effective for 3 years on your year-end evaluation, then you're only required to have the walkthroughs and then the year-end evaluation, but not the 2 formal observations. If you're a teacher that was any combination of effective or highly effective over the last 2 years, then you're only required to have 1 formal observation if you're a Plan 2 teacher. And the reason it's only for Plan 2 teachers is because our Plan 1 teachers are our probationary teachers, and we want to make sure we're providing as much support for their growth and monitoring their first few years.
Absolutely.
But yeah, anytime if there is an administrator that's falling behind or that maybe doesn't ask but that we notice, then we'll offer it. Absolutely. And it is time consuming, so we appreciate that you recognize that. It's high quality, but high quality comes with a price as well.
Absolutely. Once again, Dearborn's just a model for across the country, and we get on board things ahead of time, and we really set precedents. I wanted to ask you, as you move from the 25 to the 40% student growth, and you said that there's a percentage from the district that can be used, the 5%, and then the percentage from the building. Can that increase as well, or is that capped at?
The 25% is the state mandate that we have to do that on student growth measures. And,
right.
And we're struggling. They're struggling nationwide. These growth measures came out in Tennessee and in one of the Carolinas. I think it was South Carolina a few years back, and the state legislature says we need data, we need to demonstrate,
right.
We need reforms, and so they throw these numbers out, but they really don't have sound growth measures.
Right.
And Dearborn's working hard to establish those sound growth measures, and actually the Wayne County superintendents are meeting. They're talking with the state of Michigan, and it's an SLO, which is student learning objectives, and they're trying to build those into growth measurements. We have the NWA data, which actually demonstrates pre-test, post-test, or as students progress along. So that's a good measure of student growth. And when it moves from 25% to 40%, the state says at that point there should be a quality state assessment that they want us to use for half of that 40%. So 20% will be that state assessment.
So I'm stepping.
If there's not.
And well, we have our fingers crossed. They told us back in 2011 that everything's going to be wonderful and in play by 2012, and we just that never really happened. But we're trying to stay ahead of the game. We try to get the training out to our staff and as quickly as possible. And sometimes we're so far ahead of the game that we have to back it up because, again, the beginning of this year we were at 50% growth measurements, and fortunately they came to their senses and dropped that back down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Comment too, and agreeing with what Rob said, doing the work with the data set, and that's an area I had done a lot of work, not only in the role that Mason and Rob are in, but also in my dissertation research as my doctoral student. And really, you really want to look for multiple measure approach. Yeah. So putting all your eggs into one measurement is not the effective way. And I know Chris is nodding because this is what's been heard. So when you really you can't just invest in an M-STEP or a MEP or in even just an NWA. You want to look at multiple measures, and that's where the SLOs, and that's much more effective of a process. But it's hard because you're trying to compile all that data and put it together and then fit with what the legislatures have legislated. And I think in 2011, when they did mandate that growth, they really didn't realize that we really didn't have the capability at a state level at that time to do it. We didn't. So I will say, though, overall it is positive because we're moving in a positive direction. And regardless of what other districts are doing, we decided to work together collaboratively. You see Chris and Rob, and that's how we choose to do things. Even though it's a prohibited subject of bargaining evaluation, that's not how we operate. We operate as a team. And I would mention, too, that a couple of comments. We were asked to present at the county They are interested in our model, other superintendents coming up in May. And we just got the emails from Dr. Sala, and he wants us to present on that model. So you mentioned about us leading. Well, that's true. We are leading that area. The other thing I wanted to mention to parents is that, when I was a principal, but also a superintendent, it is a lot evaluating in the classrooms, but it's time well spent, and that's really and administrators have a lot on their plate. They have a lot to do, and I was a principal for 9 years, so I understand. But one of the things they did was prioritize time in the classroom. And the parents, when I was a principal and now as a superintendent, I've made 256 school visits since the start of the year. And so I'm prioritizing my time, making it that I'm going to be in the school connected. They're prioritizing their time, saying that this isn't. So when you call my office or if you call a principal, one of the things we told the secretary, we might not be available right away. But the reason is because we're in the class with your children, guiding instruction. And so we might not be able to get back to you right away, but we will get back to you within 24 hours. And just understand by you being patient also supports us so that we can continue to guide instruction in the classroom. So I just thought I'd want to mention that as well when people call in, and the principals they're visible in the classes. But it is a lot. It is a lot, and I'm grateful for the team for working together and doing a great job putting together a good process and product as the state law continues to change and we monitor.
And everybody needs to recognize that the professionalism of these teachers, and at a
Yes.
time when we're probably looking at a teacher shortage in the future. So I don't know, I kind of wonder, after this system has been in place and we have highly effective teachers for 25 years, do we still have to continue to keep pushing the paper? I don't know, but
Sometimes it's good to reinforce that they're excellent teachers. Sometimes they
Yeah.
don't hear that enough. So
Yeah,
a lot of
sure.
our teachers, they do extremely well on their evaluations, and they
Yeah.
deserve to hear that.
yeah, and I'm just also thinking that with highly effective people comes good salaries. So the state legislature needs to remember that as well.
Can I mention too, you mentioned, I agree with you. You mentioned paper as well. You mentioned paper, and because of electronic, we've eliminated a lot of, because it is intensive, and you should have seen HR in the past, but the paper, it's no longer paper. The new electronic system has totally created more efficiencies too.
Thank you.
Okay, we ready to move to
Action items. Special consideration of an action item. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below. I know 12, 13, and 14.
14 all require a roll call. I'd like to ask for a roll call on number 15. That's the
right.
boundary change, just to put it on the record. If anybody wants to make any comments, I mean, we've already had the chance to do that, but let's have a roll call on that
As well.
as well. Okay. so-
Any others?
Anybody else?
Okay, motion to approve action items. Recommended action, move that action items numbered 1 through 16 be approved as recommended in this agenda with the exceptions of 12, 13, 14, and 15.
So move.
Support.
Okay. So, is there any dissent, or is this a unanimous affirmative? Good, okay, so, at this point then, let's have a summary.
Summary?
Mhm.
Summary. 1, approval of warrants. 2, approval of 11 interactive Promethean whiteboards for Dearborn High School. 3, approval of change orders. 4, approval of work with DTE for the secondary service installation at Nowland School. 5, approval of slate roof and plaster repair to interior of Fordson High School. 6, approval of summer roofing bids. 7 through 10, approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel items for P12. 11, approval of financial statement. And 16 was donations.
So, at this point, I think we have a couple of people here that Dr. Maleko wanted to recognize.
Yes, so if we can ask, she was in the personnel, item number 9, if we can ask Joanne Harris to come up and give her congratulations. She's the new executive administrative assistant to the superintendent.
Thank you. So I'm very excited. I'd like to say thank you. I've been in HR for 20 years, and although I was not looking for a job, as I told Dr. Maleko, when Dawn retired, the opportunity just presented itself. So I have to thank her for that, and I have. So here I am, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Maleko again. So all I can say is thank you, and I'm looking forward to a new journey and a new challenge. So thank you very much, and I hope that you're all as excited, and I do as well as Dawn did, although I don't know that that's possible. So I'm grateful, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
And I want to also just recognize and thank all the applicants that went through the process. It was a rigorous process, and they did a good job. So we also have a new teacher here, Bernadette Quinney, new special education teacher that was approved for Smith Middle School. I believe she's here. If you'd like to come up and say hello. Putting her on the spot, I think.
Hello, Bernadette Quinney. I'm new special ed math teacher at Smith Middle School, and I'm glad to be here and excited to be on a new part of my journey after 13 years, changing school districts and coming here, and I'm excited for the students and a new opportunity.
Welcome. So glad to have you. Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you for that opportunity.
Congratulations. And I know her principal, Mr. Fisher, is here with her as well.
Oh, Mr. Fisher is here as well. Okay, is that everybody that we wanted to recognize?
Yeah, I have one more. This
Sure,
might be
go
the good
ahead.
time. I just want to mention, welcome back, Ms. Peterson. She's been off for a little while, and we're so glad to have her here today. Back at the board meeting, where she belongs, right?
Good. Great. Okay, so let's go back to number 12, then, I think. Is that where we're at?
12, calling for a HFC special meeting, recommended action. Move that a special meeting be held on Friday, March 18th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. in the President's Conference Room at the Andrew Mazzara Services and Conference Center at Henry Ford College. The purpose of this meeting, which is open to the public, is for a board retreat.
Okay, so
Somebody.
it's been moved. Does
Somebody
someone want
wants to second, don't they?
I second.
Okay. Okay, good. So, roll call, please.
Hang on, I gotta get back to my front page here. Miriam Bazzi,
Yes.
Fadwa Hammoud,
Yes.
Roxanne McDonald,
Looking forward to it.
Mary Petlicoff, yes. President Lane.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. So let's go to number 13.
Number 13, calling for a P12 executive session closed. Recommended action, move that an executive session be held on Monday, March 21st, 2016 at 6 p.m. in the President's Conference Room at the Andrew Mazzara Services and Conference Center at Henry Ford College. The purpose of the meeting, which is a closed meeting, is to discuss property per Section 8 of the Michigan Open Meetings Act.
So moved.
Support?
Roll call.
Miriam Bazzi,
Yes.
Fadwa Hammoud,
Yes.
Roxanne McDonald.
Yes.
Mary Petlicoff, yes. President Lane.
Yes, motion carries again unanimously. Number 14.
Calling for a P12 special meeting. Recommended action, move that a board study session be held on Monday, April 4th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. in the Frank Franchi Boardroom at the Administrative Service Center. The purpose of the meeting, which is open to the public, is for a budget review.
I think we're
So we have,
we were all ready to go ahead with this, but we have at least 2 absences, so we should probably withdraw this completely, table this, and not move on it until we don't even know about the gentleman, but we'd already be down 2 people, so we're gonna have to look for another date, so let's pull this one.
Agreed.
So,
I agree.
all right, then that's it on the action items?
No, we got 15.
Oh. Thank you for reminding me. I'm the one that asked for it. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
15, approval of River Oaks boundary. Recommended action, move that the board approve boundary line changes for River Oaks Elementary School.
So moved.
Support.
Miriam Bazzi,
Yes.
Fadwa Hammoud,
Yes.
Roxanne McDonald?
Yes.
Mary Petlicoff, yes. President Lane?
Yes, another unanimous vote, so good. We'll attach unanimous affirmative for that. Now are we ready to go on to? Yes.
Things go smoothly when the men aren't here.
No confusion.
Yeah, no.
Okay, you know this
Thank
is,
you.
this is.
Accept, right?
Discussion item, first budget review 2016-2017. Dr. Glenn Maleko, Mr. Thomas Wall. Oh, he's already up there.
Good afternoon, evening. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Maleko. Today's quick budget discussion is just kind of giving you some more additional background on where we're at in the budget process, some of the variables involved, and what are our next steps. So I don't know if do you already have a handout for the presentation? If not,
I got
Dave has
2.0.
Yeah, that's the one, yes.
2.0?
Yes. So we'll go briefly through this, and feel free to interrupt me as we go along if you have any questions. First one is looking at the budget calendar. And just give me 1 second. I'm doing that. Oh, I can't do it. All right. So I'm going to give a little pointer thing, but I guess it doesn't have it on this version. Oh, there it is. So right now, we are at this spot right here, which is the March 14th, where we have our first look at some of the budget assumptions. The view isn't very clear on the screen, so that's why you have the handout. But we're very early on in the session, so wait for everybody to kind of get the right handout out. Is everybody good? Situated? Okay, so the first budget assumption is that we have the governor's proposal right now, but as you see, we're still early on in the process. The governor has given his proposal back in February, and the House and Senate are still going through their steps. They have promised to get it out of the subcommittee by the end of March, so before they go on spring break, they would give us their plans of how to do it, and then they start working together to come down to a plan that all three branches agree upon. So right now, we're still early on, so I'll go through some of the assumptions. So the budget model is basically is designed about our existing program. So what we're doing right now for the 15-16 school year is our base. So the idea is to use your base, you develop what changes are going to go up or down on the budget, and that's what we do for the budget model. So what we look at, when we look at a global level, we're not going to get into line item detail. We'd be here forever if we do something like that. But we look at pupil counts, state aid changes, contractual commitments for steps, salaries, and adjustments to that, program changes if we add a new program or we decide not to do a program going forward, and retirements. Those are the big items that really affect our budget. So this is you approved back in February. This was our first budget amendment. And if you look at the very bottom down here, whoa, sorry, I'm working on that pointer skill. At the very bottom, we were looking at a surplus of roughly $667,000 at the end of this fiscal year. So that's the program we're basing upon, that going forward, if nothing changed, we would actually continue with a slight surplus in our fund. So looking at the governor's plan, because that's the only model we have right now, in the governor's plan, they are projecting a 2X formula, where the districts on the low end would get twice the amount of the districts on the top end of the foundation allowance. So underneath that scenario, the bottom foundation level districts would get $120, and us, where our hold harmless district, would get $60 per pupil. Now, unfortunately, with the state constitution, they have what we call the Headley effect, and we can't get the full 60. So to get us to the full 60 amount, they would institute a categorical called 20J, which would get us back up to that $60 value. Underneath the current formula, we would get $8 in our foundation allowance. The rest, $52, would be in a categorical. So that's how the governor would kind of has his current plan. The retirement plan would continue right here, the third one. Retirement plan would continue at the normal levels, where they actually will fund a portion of our retirement, give us the money, and it would flow through us, and we had to pay the ORS for that portion of retirement for our staff. Now, the big change that they have is what we call the funding for pupils, going from a 90-10, which is currently now, where we get 90% of the fall count and 10% of the previous winter count. They're looking to change that to a 50-50 count. So 50% in the fall and 50% for the prior spring. And the reasoning for that is that most of the districts in Michigan are at declining enrollment. So if they get more funding on the previous year, knowing that next fall is going to be lower, that they would get a better funding model and actually get an increase or less of a decrease in revenue. So that's why they went to that process. So looking at the student counts, this goes back 3 years. If you want to go over here, the first one, that's where we were in 14-15 on a blended count using a 90-10 formula. So we were at 19,697 students. The current year, we're at 19,822. That's our current year count based on a 90-10. If they implemented the 50-50 count last year, this right here, the 376 negative is what revenue we'd have less this year if they actually did a 50-50 count in the current year. So since we're a growing district, we got more revenue because our accounts were increasing. Any questions on that? Because that's a concept that's going to be a big budget discussion this year.
In a lot of districts, they want the 50-50, but because of our situation, we actually benefit more by the 90-10.
It hurts us,
Yeah.
right.
Correct. So next year, these are only preliminary counts because the Student Services Department is still working on them. That we're looking at 19,977 next year, but we're using the 50-50 count because that's the only model we have right now in the state legislature on our funding. So obviously, we would actually, he's looking at for the fall, 1990, which is a slight decrease from the current year at 20,054 for our spring count. And that's a conservative until he actually has time to go through the process. When you're developing budgets, you don't go to the max right at the very beginning. We kind of be very conservative developing. So when we look at plans, we make sure we can afford them and going forward that we can sustain them. Any questions on that slide? All right, so what we now look at, now that we're into the process now, we have a most likely scenario, a worst case scenario, and best case scenario. And when I talk about worst case, best case, it's not about individual departments or buildings, it's looking at just the bottom line of the budget. So if you're looking at a best case scenario, it doesn't necessarily mean how someone individually might be affected, just looking at the very bottom line of how the budget's gonna look at the end of the scenario. So, so you'll see some different impacts from staffing wages to other things. Again, we're not making any kind of judgment or anything, it's just the bottom line of the budget, so that's important to remember. So to start off with, you look at historically, the last 3 years, you can see where our ending fund balance was for the last 3 fiscal years. Just kind of get a historical perspective of how our fund balance was doing. As you can see, ours has actually been slightly increasing, and last year was a large increase, so that's a good status to have. Many districts are actually seeing a declining fund balance, and that's a concern because that's showing a system of where you're spending more than what you're actually getting in. So here's our 667,000. That's where our current amendment is. That's our current operating budget. When you look at how we're going to end the year, I am estimating right now in the most likely scenario that we'll have roughly about $400,000 under budget. State law requires us, if we adopt a budget, we have to stay within that means. If we actually overspend, we get a letter from the state saying your internal controls aren't working, you spent more than what you budgeted. So now we have to reply to that sort of scenario. So you always try to be conservative and actually come in slightly under budget. Underneath that, we would actually end the year at roughly about $1 million, a little over $1 million. That would give us a fund balance of roughly $13.7 million. Now, if we don't do anything and nothing happens, we keep the same program, ideally this number will continue on for next year. However, this current year, if you remember at the last board meeting, we bought some buses. We were planning on buying the buses from the general fund, but we had excess bond funds. So we actually changed the bus purchase from general fund to the bond fund. So I know that next year, if we continue on, we're going to buy the buses from the general fund because there's not going to be enough bond funds. So that's why that number is $220,000 less than what our current operating expectations. As we look forward, with our increase of students, because we're a growing district, we'll get roughly about $2 million from additional students. Next one is the health insurance increase. The state cap increased 2.5%. So in their most likely model, we're actually looking at adding that additional money into the staff. So that's additional money we're spending on health insurance that we're not spending this year. So that's why it shows as a negative, because it's going to be a new use of funds. There is currently no increases in salaries budget at this point. Step increases. This is just the teachers. I haven't got into all the support staff and administrators, but the teaching staff, if nothing changes, will go off roughly about $2.9 million. So that's going to be an increase in the cost of staffing due to steps in the contract. Retirement-wise, this is a big number that we kind of use to offset the salary step increases. We're estimating right now at 30. We actually have more than that, but when you look at salary retirement, or retirement says relates to salary, you look at the difference of what the teacher that's retiring wage level and beginning teacher, and that's where you get your savings from the change and the two different salary levels. So you actually incur a savings when you hire a new teacher when the senior teacher retires. And we use that number to help offset steps. So that's why that number is in there as a positive, because it's actually adding money back into the budget. Foundation increase, this is underneath the governor's plan, that if the currently stands as the 2X formula, we would add $8 to our fund balance because of the state constitutional aspect, and a 20J would come back and we get $52 from there. So we get our full $60, but it comes in two different ways to the budget. So when that happens, there are several impacts to the contract. If it's increase in foundation allowance, we have to add, as part of the contract, money into the salary schedules for the staff. If it's in a categorical, currently it does not add money. So you look at that, and a new issue that I don't think even talked to Glenn about yet is on special ed, the AVID program. If you remember, we implemented the AVID program last year. We had to use special ed funding to do that, and when we used special ed funding, the teachers that were in the program had to get moved to the general fund, so it was additional cost on just the general fund side. Next year, early science have shown us, and with some discussions with the state, we won't have to do that again this year for out of the special ed program. So the teachers who put in the general fund this year will go back to the special ed fund, and it'll increase some additional money in the general fund. That was a quick concept. Everybody got that one? I talk fast, sorry.
You simplify things.
Okay. So the net effect for a most likely scenario that we could be adding $1.4 million to the fund balance. Now, this is very early in the process, but it's just using the governor's plan and the current data that we have, knowing that everything's going to change probably by tomorrow, but at least kind of give you a snapshot of how the process works and some of the variables we are using. All right, so that was the most likely scenario. Looking at the best case scenario. So I'm just going to highlight a few numbers on here, not going to go through it all again because we'd be here forever. So looking at the projected savings, going from $420,000 to $620,000, so we actually come in better than we expect for the current year. So that would add some additional money to the fund balance. Number here, again, to $220,000 less because of the bus issue. So we'd be starting with $1 million surplus in our operating fund going forward. Looking at student counts, we actually get a higher student count than what we expected, so it adds some additional money, roughly about $300,000 more than $200,000 we looked in the previous screen. Nothing changed with health insurance, retirements, or steps. The governor plan is still in effect, and so we'll actually potentially could add $1.9 million to our fund balance at the end of the year. Again, don't put the money in the bank just yet. We're early on. Now, looking at the worst case scenario. Starting in the same spot, instead of the $420,000, we only saved $200,000. So we pretty much, don't have much money from what we budgeted. As we add $867,000 to the fund balance. That $867,000 less than $220,000, we only carry forward to $647,000 for able to use for next year. Our student count actually is not as good as we projected, about 100 students less. So instead of adding $2 million on the most likely, we're only adding roughly about $1.5 million to the new revenue. Now, if the governor decides to change or the state process goes through, add all the money into the fund balance. Again, this is not looking at individual issues, just the bottom line for the fund balance when I look at worst case scenario. The $60 goes all into the foundation allowance. When that happens, it triggers a lot of action, on what actual salaries we have to pay out according to contract. So that number goes up to over $2 million of additional uses. We would actually end up at the end of the year using our fund balance of our program and actually starting a structural deficit going forward if we don't address it. So you can see there's still a long range, anywhere from potential best case of $2 million to a worst case of $800,000 use. So it's a almost $3 million switch from one case scenario to the other. And as we go through this process, we'll keep defining it more and more, and those numbers get closer. But I don't until actually probably late May, we'll actually know what our true funding is for schools. All right, that was a lot of, again, quick. Everybody okay?
Yep.
All right, next steps in the budget process. So right now I'm currently working with the staff and the administration and the department's head to kind of look at what's going to change next year. So I have roughly about 70 budget, budget calendar spots to be able to have people come in and talk to me. So that has started actually this week, and we're going through that to see what they would like to see for next year. And as we go through the budget process, we'll look at them, review them, and see if we can afford or not afford them, depending on what scenario we're looking at, and so we can start planning ahead of time if it's something we want to do. So we're going through that process now of gathering that data, what they'd like to see for next year. The Michigan Senate and House legislators are going through it, like I said, at the end of March. We'll get an idea where they're at. And so that'll kind of give us a better scenario, best case, worst case, to kind of see what the different plans of funding is for next year. We had the April board study session that just got nixed, so made my spring break much easier now.
April. We still got more weeks in
I'll take some time off in the spring break now. I like that part. And then in April, in our finance committee, which we'll have one for the April board meeting, the April 16th meeting, starting to look at the other funds. Because right now we've been just focused on the general fund, but we'll actually start looking at the food service fund, capital projects, and those additional funds. And that's it. That's your quick 10-minute presentation.
Well done. Okay, so any questions on that? Well,
I just had a couple
Dr. Malenko,
comments.
yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. And Tom's been doing a great job meeting with us regularly. You know, with the fund balance, I just want to mention, we've discussed it before. I mean, that's an important factor because when you go below that 5%, you're put on a list from the state. And so if you look at the previous years, that 1 year we were below that 5%. And part of the reason the fund balance went down several years ago is because of the tough budget times. You went into the fund balance to try to supplement the cost. So as we start to build that up, it is important for the stability of the district. Second, I know the board has talked about, you know, we lose money by borrowing in the summer. And so if we could get up to a little bit closer to that 18, 19 million, it would avoid the need to borrow in the summer. Having said that, we're not just going to, you know, we're balancing that with current needs and services to students. And again, we do recognize our employees and their contributions, and we are glad that this year, you know, we know they've taken cuts over the last several years, you know, up to 8%, I believe, even more when you look at healthcare potentially. But we did give them back 0.8% this year to some of the union groups. And, you know, the other thing with the healthcare is, you know, with the hard cap, I mean, it may not see, but with the work that the unions have done collaboratively has saved, you know, individuals, all of us actually, as we, you know, for our own expense. So when we're using that as a recruiting tool actually for new teachers, is that you can't just look at the overall salary, but look at the overall benefits package. And I know our HR team is going out there and saying, you know, the work that the unions have done with the HP, I believe, and the VIBA has saved to the individual members so that they pay less. Now, having said that, healthcare costs continue to go up, but I know they've been very creative and we've been open to working with them. And to this point, you know, looking at just adding, I know you have it in the budget amount, you know, adding that amount that goes up to the cap, the maximum amount the state allows us to contribute. So those are additional benefits, you know, working in Dearborn Public Schools. I also want to mention that as a student count grows, there's additional costs because we hire teachers and staff. But that's great that's a great thing. We're building buildings, we're adding teachers, we're adding to the economy into the community. And as we mentioned before, you know, Crain's Magazine had us as the 5th largest employer in the county. So, you know, these are all positive, beneficial things that are healthy within our school district, but they are important factors to consider when you're looking at the budget that Tom presented. And the fact that that's still the governor's proposal and nothing has been officially passed yet. So there's still a lot of uncertainty.
You still have the Detroit issue, what's going to happen with that district.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to run out of money in mid-April, so how are they going to address that? And you have the Flint water crisis. In the governor's plan, he transfers a lot of money from the general fund for the state level into the school aid fund to afford this package. So depending on competing interests, you know, that money might also disappear depending on how it goes forward. So there's still a lot of big numbers out there to kind of be concerned about.
And although it wasn't a tremendous amount, I was glad because of all the cuts, because of our dedicated employees and our teachers and our support staff, and I know are here, that they have contributed. So we were happy that we were to give them a little bit back this year, just, you know, all the cuts they've taken over time because of, you know, not just Dearborn, but the entire educational system at the state and the way the budget has been. So we appreciate their dedication and we're glad we were a little able to value them with that contribution to their salaries.
On that note, I was going to mention in the next upcoming Board of Ed business, the Building and Site Committee has talked about also different projects that, you know, the status of all of our projects. And I would note that we used to invest $3.5 million every year in building and site improvements. It's really routine maintenance to our schools. We have, 35 buildings? And we don't want to fall behind on our maintenance. Once we do, we're into a losing cycle. We know across the United States that we haven't put a lot of money into infrastructure. Case one is our roads, and once you start falling behind on that, then the bill gets bigger and bigger as everything starts breaking up. We've been particularly blessed in Dearborn because our voters have approved bonds. And without that, there has not been capital improvements. And so many districts across the state, so many local units of government have seen all of our money going into retirement, health care, and then current salaries, and we haven't been able to keep up things. So we're now spending, I think, $500,000 where we used to put $3.5 million every year into maintenance of the buildings. So that's something else that's how we've paid for these cuts to education, is we've let all of that stuff go. So more good news on the building and site, but yeah, just something for people to keep in mind. And of course, on the fund balance, the board has expressed many times that we just want to increase that so that we don't have to borrow over the summer.
And now we're also being mandated by the state to have a certain percentage on hand, or they're going to come in. I mean, we know that we have to keep our eye on that fund balance.
Right.
Okay, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, B, board study session, April 4th, 2016. Since we've nixed it, I guess we're...
So we're not going to discuss that.
We're not going to discuss it.
We're going to have to have a new date proposed.
I like the way Tom, he just said he nixed it. Tom.
Okay, Board of Education business, acknowledgement of correspondence.
Does anybody have correspondence? We have a couple of, looks like invites maybe at our board table. Yeah. And then we're always active on our emails from parents. We've had a few emails from parents.
I'd like to say
Trustee
that
Hammoud.
I never win anything, ever. And when I went to the Dearborn Ed Foundation Mardi Gras event, I did the tin raffles, and I actually... They sent it first. We thought Glenn might have took it, but I
No, I watched him. I didn't see him volunteer for anything other than the hat and shirt.
I won the hat and the shirt, though, the green hat and the Red Wings, right?
So I did receive my prizes from Dearborn Music and Little Shadows Photography.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Fun to go to those and win.
Okay.
Next.
Board member committee and organization reports.
Okay, so I attended Building and Site along with Trustee Hammoud. I subbed for Trustee Bazzi, and Trustee Guido was there. So I'd like to, since he's not here, and he knew he wasn't going to be here, I'll give you a little bit of an update on that. Trustee Hammoud, please feel free to jump in at any time. The best and the biggest news from my point of view is that our bond projects are all done. They're all completed on time and on budget, or even under budget. So that was really good news. Mr. Burrick challenged all of us to check out Lindbergh School, where there's still going to be work this summer replacing the windows. And I did go up there, and you were right, Mr. Burrick, that is going to be fabulous. Those are going in. There's some small change orders, but everything else is being finished. We have temporary certificates of occupancy at Bryant. We have a permanent one at River Oaks. We're close at Woodward, Lindbergh. That's the windows that are going in, and then I think that's it on the updates for the bond projects. We still have a $1.4 million contingency fund for the work here at Tenike. So, Dr. Maleko, you look like you want to say something on that. No?
Yeah, I can comment, and just we're looking at different options to go with the Heights campus. You know, we're finding a need, and we're going to take our time, but, you know, Jeff and Dr. Mosallam went over to the Heights campus to look at the needs over there, where we have the special education program, we have the Montessori, we have the Berry Center, we have the STEM, we have DC, we have several things. And so there's a need for some space, so we're looking at different options. And possibly that some of the solution may involve here at the administrative center with possibly some classrooms for maybe adult ed classes or other things that we could look at. We don't anticipate though being able to do that for this year, but there may be some things that they can do to alleviate some space issues over there. And part of it is just really a positive. The programs are expanding. We committed to the community to expand to the 8th grade STEM over at the Heights, and so therefore we need to find space for the students. And not only that, but just to enhance the program. And I know that Dr. Musallam did a great job going in there with the team, and we did plan a walkthrough coming up for April 17th with Mr. Burek, myself, and some others, and Dr. Musallam to look at the instructional need with the work he's done, but then also see the feasibility of some of these things, as that's what the committee had directed us to do. So we're excited with some of the work moving forward, but we also know we need to proceed methodically to make sure that we do what's right for our students.
Right, but then here at Tenike, we need to put a roof on
Yes,
this
a roof,
building,
yeah.
HVAC system, there's new furniture that's needed, the lobby needs to be reconfigured, so there will be quite a bit of work going on here at Tenike to make this a workable administration building for the entire district. And then other things that are going on, okay, we got a list of, actually a wish list and then a real needs list. The wish list from principals for things that need to be done, such as auditorium seats that need to be replaced. A lot of things were pushed out, and the list that we got, which is, I don't know, maybe 10 pages, maybe more long, would total probably 160 million just to start. He's saying higher. And that's even with the huge investments that the community has made.
Has already made,
yeah. I mean, we have older buildings. I don't remember. We have 11 buildings that are built in the 1920s. So we have one boiler at Laurie that is a 1974 boiler. We can only expect these things to go so long. And repairs on slate roofs are extremely expensive. So we have a lot of needs. We're trying to prioritize the big list of $160 million down to what do we take on in chunks and what do we do little by little. 1-year priorities, 3-year priorities, and then longer term funding. So other physical needs, we discussed some cell phone towers and then property deals. So those are all going to be forwarded to the rest of the board for consideration. It was a long meeting of the building and site, but it was pretty productive. Trustee Hammoud, you want to?
I think you covered it all.
Yeah, we got a lot of different drawings, so the board will be looking at all of that in the future. So. Trustee Petrikov.
Okay, we had a city relations subcommittee meeting a couple of weeks ago. We met at the Dearborn Administrative Center. It was centrally located. We had President Jensen from the college, Dr. Maleko, and Tom Wall, and Dave Mustonen, as well as Trustee Hammoud and Trustee Guido, who's always that mysterious presence, who's not here tonight. We had, the mayor had a lot of his directors. We had the police chief there as well, and we reestablished what had been previously discussed years ago when the City Relations Subcommittee last met, and we gave some tasks David was trying to hide from us as we started to talk about some projects that we wanted to look at. This, as everybody remembers, is a collaborative effort of how we can share our resources from both the city's end and the school districts and the college, and where we can find cost savings and or overlaps and opportunities that enhances the community as a whole, because it's everybody's taxpayer dollars involved in any of these things. So we decided we'd meet quarterly, and we've got some projects we are going to start investigating feasibilities of within the next few months before we meet again.
Great, good. Thank you to the committee members then. I know that we will have the evaluations committees also meeting. Trustee McDonald, you were asking about that, and you're getting ready for that.
Yes.
And I know, Trustee Bazey, I think you're the other chair for that, so we'll be on those two soon. Lots of action this spring. Good. Next.
Board member superintendent commentary.
I'd just like to say something. I know I saw Principal Short here earlier, but a few weeks ago it was raining really bad, and my sitter who picks up my kids' car had stalled at the school, and it was a crappy day, and she sent me a message indicating that her car had basically stalled, and Principal Short came out, pulled up his car, and tried to give her a jump on for her car to kind of get it started. And I've seen him on the crosswalk when there isn't a parent available, making sure kids are crossing the street safely. And I wanted to acknowledge him and really acknowledge the principals that a lot of times do these extra things. I know I was incredibly appreciative. It was raining, it was kind of dark, and it would have been easy to kind of pretend you didn't see the stalled car. And I ended up sending him an email thanking him, but I also wanted to acknowledge the extra things that he's done as a principal, as well as I'm sure all the other principals in the district have done. We really do, as a parent, appreciate what they do for our kids, and I just wanted to say that.
All in a day's work for a principal, a labor of love indeed.
Yeah.
Trustee Petchak.
I'm going to be attending a meeting again tomorrow morning for Healthy Dearborn Coalition, and I'm on the school committee that we have, surprise. And I just wanted to say what I did find out at our city relations subcommittee meeting, to my surprise, was one of the conversations we had at the Healthy Dearborn Coalition was about the Safe Routes grants. That's a federal grant. And Tom Wall is already working on the Safe Routes grant program, so I can go tomorrow and report that we are ahead of the game. We don't have to do it through the coalition, and that the school district has taken on this challenge of applying for a grant for safe, for monies, $200,000, I think, per school that qualifies. And it's, the grants are long-term, they're extended out. I don't think we would even see the money until 2017, but they need to collaborate with a lot of information on, with the city and other local road requirements in order to qualify for the money. So it's going to be a very time-intensive grant application for each building, has to have it submitted. So I'm very pleased to see that Dearborn, once again, the district is taking the lead on something that's we're also participating with through the Beaumont health system in the city of Dearborn. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Wall for helping me not have to do so much work come tomorrow.
Thank you. Trustee Hamud.
The pink brochures that we have right on our tables, that's the who's who for the League of Women Voters. And I have to say that this year, and I know they did it in the past as well, I've been involved in terms of what the League's been doing hand in hand with the Dearborn Public Schools, thanks to Dr. Maleko and also the principals of the high schools involved. Today we were at Fordson. The League is helping students, seniors that are 18 or will be 18 by November 8th register to vote. And so far they have registered hundreds of students. It's a great effort that the school is doing with the League of Women Voters. And on behalf of the League, I want to thank you. So that's been a great effort.
And to that, I also, as Trustee Hamud, have been working with part of the League of Women Voters and was working with them. And I got to tell you, I registered to vote when I was at Fordson, and I have been voting ever since. And that was something I had talked to the students about when we were registering people. And I'm thankful to the district, Dr. Maleko, and the rest of the board for letting the League of Women Voters come in and get those students registered, because there's nothing more powerful than your vote. So,
and it's something that, I'm almost 60 years old, and I registered to vote at my high school years. This is something that's been promoted over the years in every school district to help encourage good citizenship. So it's something that we
we know is part of the democratic process, and we
The
want to make
ultimate
sure. Yes.
project-based
Yeah.
learning, go and
Right.
learn how to vote. Yeah.
Thank you for getting me set up with Mr. Cushman. We had a great meeting.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
for
happy
getting
she was-
involved and promoting it, so.
And the schools have been very cooperative, very good. And I've been enjoying March Reading Month.
Oh,
going
yes,
to
I was
different
going
schools.
to comment on that also. I had a really terrific read at Snow School. I'm going to be at Becker. I don't know if anybody else is going to other schools. I know I'm going over to River Oaks. I've got my books ready. So, yeah, it's really wonderful. We've had a lot of celebrities like Dr. Maleko, well-known superintendent celebrity. But, yeah, it's really wonderful to go and read. I hope the high schools are doing things too, because it's a habit that needs to be early and often.
I think, I'm sorry.
Well, just one question back to the voting thing. The students that are, for example, in the Collegiate Academy in their 5th year, would they be able to go to their home high school and register to vote? Because I know I've talked to some of those students that aren't registered, and they had asked me, where could they go? And
I can answer that
Okay.
throughout this, with the League of Women Voters. They can actually pick up an application from the office and then turn it back into the office if they would like to do that.
from
And
the
then
office of their home high school?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
And then somebody from the League of Women Voters would be collecting those applications.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I mention just on
Yeah,
March? Yes,
please.
I'm having a
Yeah,
lot of fun,
yeah.
and I'm very busy, and that's why, honestly, my schedule is just booked solid for March, but it's great. I'm booking into April. I'm glad, board members and trustees. So really, I'm still planning to do some reading. Yeah, we've had judges, we've had legislatures. We have a return from our state superintendent, Mr. Wisson's coming on Wednesday to read, and then he's going to be on my Happenings talk show. So you've got a lot of people, good people, I know the board, and you've got a lot of people going out and reading for the students, and I'm having a lot of fun, and it is very exciting this time of year to see the enthusiasm of the students, and thank you to everyone for promoting March's Reading Month. I think it's a great and worthy cause, and one of the things, the message I keep saying to the students when we go there is, education is so critical, and having them raise their hands that they must graduate from high school and beyond. And the second thing I'm saying, think about the TV, turn the TV off sometimes and pick up a book, and that's been a consistent message. So.
Well, it's a great reminder when we go in how great some of our students are. When I was there, I happened to be voting beforehand. There were a couple of seniors who were with me, and the Snow students came up and were escorting me to the library. And the adults are really impressed. Our students are they're terrific. They're going to be a great generation to take over from us. So they're doing a great job. They're really great kids, and we're so proud of them. And March is Reading Month. We get to enjoy them even more. So, Trustee Hamoud, you looked like you wanted to add something. Oh, okay. All right. Another good thing going on in the schools, I want to give a shout out to Stout, which is the only middle school I think that's attempting to undertake a play. They're doing Hairspray, right? Yeah. Yeah, so that's another massive undertaking. It's really important. I'm not an actress, obviously. From this meeting, you can see that. But that really serves a lot of purposes. It serves literacy, obviously, right away, but socialization, and just there's so many great benefits that come out of it. So congratulations for Stout for undertaking to do that. One other thing that I wanted to note also, Trustee Mead got an email from me that he thought was pretty bizarre, asking for his account number. And he thought it was pretty weird because he and I we're not engaged in banking or anything. But so I just want to remind people, if an email looks weird, Dr. Maleko's email got hacked. I had someone who was doing a fake email, so it was kind of a phishing. So if an email looks odd and it comes out and it says that it's from us, there are a lot of sites or places that try to mimic people. We have not had a problem with this in the past, but everybody should keep on their toes because we have been,
Sure,
we have had weird stuff coming out.
And we are
Go
taking
ahead.
some additional provisions and working with Mr. Patterson. I think you heard Mr. Rob Searland say, oh, wait a minute, your new security protocol, because what was happening, and I don't want to, but it's a two-step, so he was getting a code in order to be able to log in. So there's extra securities, and that is all over my accounts now. I have a extra step process that you wouldn't be able to just log in, and that's what Mr. Patterson's recommending. But we're going to continue to get these sort of things going on in the taxes. So that's why it's so important to change passwords and to be cautious. Don't share passwords, and make sure that you do your due diligence when you're protecting your securities and your network, because there are a lot of people out there that are trying to get information. Sometimes just to create havoc. Not even looking for specific information.
And sometimes not from here in the United States
Yes,
either.
correct.
I mean, they can be hacking from any place in the world. Anybody else? Anything? What? Yes, Dr. Maleko, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, okay. Just a couple of things. We have the Alberta Muirhead Teacher of the Year Award that's out, and I just wanted to remind parents that the applications are due on April 7th. I want to mention it because we don't have a board meeting until after that time. The nominations are due. And so we always look forward to that event and recognizing our teachers. I have to say this too, I was here on Saturday, and again, I want to recognize our teachers, support staff, and our administrators, because this building was filled, and it was filled with teachers and professional development working on Saturday. And what that does is it reduces, for me, it's not even the cost, it's the subs that are reduced and the instruction in the class. And so it's a dedication of our staff and our faculty and our support staff coming here. So I have to mention, I did put a thing out on Facebook and my Twitter account and just recognizing some of it actually got retweeted all over. So I'm glad that others are recognizing the value of our staff in the district, our support staff and our teachers and our administrators, and so just thank you. Last thing I just want to wish, because I know we don't have a board meet, but we do have the spring break coming up, and so the last official day is the 24th and on the Thursday, and then we return on April 4th. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful break with their families, holiday time with your families, and hopefully you can relax or travel or whatever you may be doing and enjoy the time off holiday.
And you can always read during that
Yes,
time.
absolutely. I did say too to the students when I go, I do have to remind my son every now and then, turn the TV off, and reading is important. So, but he does, and that's the role of the parents, I think, in the family, to remind the children that, look, we need to be reading. Reading just at school is not enough. It really needs to be throughout the day and into the evening. So.
And sometimes the students or the kids that you think you're not making progress on. I know I had one son who was always ready to go out for recess rather than read, and he's become a champion reader now. It's one of his favorite hobbies. So practice makes perfect, and you adapt what you practice. So.
One last thing.
Sure.
Thank you to Kathy for stepping in today and helping us out. Appreciate that with Dawn retiring. And Joanne, you'll be next month. Looking forward to having you up here.
Great. So are we ready to call this a day,
Well,
an evening?
we've got
Or we-
requests for
Yep.
information in.
Oh, we still
or
have one more.
future agenda
Right,
items.
Here I am ready to wrap up. Trustee McDonald.
I won't let you stop.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say how often we get a list of donations that have been made to the school, and like tonight's we had everything from fluids for autos to fluids for people and cash and everything in between. And I think it's real important that we reach out to the community, and I have in a couple of aspects. When I went to one of my son's parent-teacher conferences, his welding instructor told us that they really had a shortage of pieces of metal to weld. So I talked to my husband, got a couple, and they were able to donate a little bit. But then I went to David Bazzi, and he talked to him and put those two together. And as far as I know, they were making the connection and getting the supplies for students. So I was wondering if maybe we could have some kind of presentation on what kind of donations we really need, if there's, and also the process of doing donations and that kind of thing, just in general.
Good.
And how to connect people with each
Right,
other.
maybe have
Yeah.
something on the website of, a wish list kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Because I know now that my son's in wood tech, and he said that they could use some pieces of wood. And there's got to be some connections here for that. So if we could just help make that, I think it would be
Sure,
excellent
we
for
can
our
do that.
students. So, and we
Any-
do rely on our community to help us in so many ways.
Anything else on requests? Okay, future.
Okay, future meeting dates. Monday, March 21st, 2016, we have a closed, wait, let me get this right here since we added that one. Closed 6 p.m. Ah,
For property.
So,
Okay. Okay, yeah, in the President's Conference Room at the Andrew Mazzara Services and Conference Center. The purpose of the meeting, which is closed, is to discuss property per Section 8C of the Michigan Opens Meeting Act. Monday, March 21st, 2016, HFC meeting, 7 p.m. at the Andrew Mazzara Services and Conference Center in the Rosenau Boardroom, Henry Ford College. Monday, April 11th, 2016, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. And Monday, April, well, that doesn't have a date.
There's no April. Do you know what the date is?
There.
April
4th?
No.
No?
April.
The last
This
one,
is
it says April and a
8th.
comma.
Would it be 18th, 2016? There's no date. HFC meeting, 7 p.m. at the Andrew Mazzara Services and Conference Center in the Rosenau Boardroom, Henry Ford College.
April 18th.
Is
Is
it
that
the
April?
18th? Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
you
say,
know what,
it
it
would be the
printed on
18th.
some, it must be your copy that
didn't
didn't print
print.
right.
Oh,
It's,
the 18th's on
yeah.
yours?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's interesting. It's not on mine either.
Okay, and then we have adjournment.
Okay, did you read the first one, the board retreat, March 18th?
That wasn't on, that was not on there.
I wonder if that's an earlier
Because
copy.
mine starts with Monday, March 21st.
Yes, it
Okay,
is mine.
because, yeah, that might have been an earlier copy before this was added. So, or Friday, do you want to go ahead and read the last, or the first one there?
Okay, Friday, March 18th, 2016, HFC special meeting, open retreat at 5:30 p.m. in the President's Conference Room at the Andrew Mazzara Services and Conference Center at Henry Ford College.
Okay, so if all business is
right.
conducted, we are adjourned.